Okay, if everybody wants to take a seat, we're getting ready for the lunch program. And you all are in a treat for this coming session. Can I have everybody's attention for a minute? Also, I'll remind everybody at 4:30, there's a really cool networking reception, and there's a very famous author, Isabel Howe, at Stanford University, who's one of our early learning experts, and she's going to be there, and you're going to get to meet her and spend some quality time with her. But you're going to get to meet each other, and you're going to get to meet a lot of the different speakers who you really want to build some lasting connections with. So that's going to be another fun time for everybody to network and get to know each other. But for right now, we are thrilled to introduce this session called Planning for a Prosperous Future. It's tied into our theme of economic mobility and multi-generational economic mobility. Some of you met Karen from AARP last night. Some of you are so young you don't realize AARP has 40 million retired people, or just people 50 and better, I think is what they say. And so you guys might be 18 or 22 and not know about them, but they're an incredible organization. And that's why we're looking at multi-generational threads. And I'm going to, without further ado, introduce Sam Lalanne. Sam is a partner of GlobalMindED. He's been a continuous presenting sponsor for our United Nations event, for this event, and he's got an incredible personal story himself. And he's joined by Abby Axelrod-Wunderman, who's the philanthropic director of Fiduciary Trust. Sam, by the way, managing director for Morgan Stanley. And Rodney is another colleague of his who's wonderful. We just met a few weeks ago at an event in Chicago, and he's head of industry engagement for Morgan Stanley, so he works with a lot of businesses that we're going to be wanting to connect with to be able to meet our students and become mentors for them. And then Wendi Safstrom is on our board as well, and she is the CEO of the SHRM Foundation, and that's Society of Human Resource Professionals. So let's give these folks a big hand, and we're in for a treat for this lunch. You're so welcome.
You guys hear me? Give it a minute. Testing, test. There we go. All right, let's just make sure you really hear me. You guys hear me? Louder, louder. Come on. We need some energy. We've been here all day. You're not hungry anymore. That's great. So just by a round of applause, how have you enjoyed today's conference so far? So we have maybe an unenviable task of being on the panel stage while you're eating. So we're going to try to be as entertaining, as energetic, as fast-paced as possible to keep your attention so we can get through the rest of our program. So again, a warm welcome to you all. It's great to be here. Carol just gave us a brief intro. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into our intros to be able to contextualize this particular session that we're in right now. So this is, as you can see on the screen, multi-generational economic mobility. It's a mouthful, but it's something that's near and dear to the spirit of what GlobalMindED is all about. For many in the room, these topics resonate, and maybe your lived experiences will be demonstrated somehow, some way, some form, on our panel today. So a little bit about me. I'm the managing director at Morgan Stanley, financial services company, we're based global headquarters in New York, 8,000 employees, we're in 42 countries, and my role is the Chief Diversity Officer of Morgan Stanley. And so in that capacity, this work, the conversation that we're having throughout this conference is near and dear to my heart. The students that are here, near and dear to my heart, in many different ways. Just last week, Morgan Stanley, at our Salt Lake City office, we hosted in celebration of Social Mobility Day in First Gen panel, which is pretty cool. We invited individuals from the community to come, those that are prospective candidates for Stanley Salt Lake City area were invited to attend. We had 400 people in person, another 150 or so on Zoom. And as we were hearing the panel talk about their first gen experience, all the points that they made really resonated. We had individuals that were first gen in the sense that they were first in their families to be raised in the United States. We had someone that's first generation in the corporate landscape, no one there in the corporate America. We had someone that's first in their family to go to college, first in their family to graduate college. And there are a couple of interesting subpoints to it, which I also found beneficial. The conversation around first to go to college. There's also the first that have to deal with how do you even pay for college? Or you can pay that first semester, that first year, that stress and anxiety building up about how you're going to pay that next one. Does that resonate with some of the audience? So today's conversation highlights that dynamic, that dilemma that many face, especially those that are going through and curve of social mobility. That's my lived experience. I'm first generation American, first in my family to go to 4-year college. My parents are going to all of community college, so shout out to community college students. First in my family to work on Wall Street. First in my family to make it to this level within the industry. So those comments really resonated with me that panel shared, and I'm sure for you all here today, hopefully you'll find some common bond with what our esteemed panelists will share. So with that in mind, let me allow our panelists to introduce themselves. We'll start with Abby.
Thank you. It's a pleasure of being entertaining. Hi. I'm Axelrod-Wunderman, and I'm the philanthropy at Fiduciary Trust International. We are a wealth management firm up here in Templeton, a $1.4 trillion publicly traded company. And I would say my path to philanthropy was shaped by a few things. I was a former high school teacher, a former college professor, as well as a professional artist, turned into getting a master's in nonprofit leadership. And early on in my philanthropy career, I was running a family foundation. And I would say that really helped me understand the difference between charity and thinking strategically about long-term goals and planning and systems change. And since then, I've been working with families, institutions, businesses, and individuals on helping them align their values and their resources to be most effective in giving. Because to me, philanthropy, when done strategically, can really shift generational outcomes.
Thanks so much. My name is Martin Shaw. I'm the president and CEO of All Finance. At All Finance, we help increase the title pipeline in the $15 billion+ alternative investment industry by preparing students from HBCUs for careers in alternative investments in related industries. And I hear some HBCU folks out there that okay, great. In terms of my path to philanthropy, it's certainly non-traditional. I finished school as an engineer, went to business school, became a Wall Street identity analyst, and had truly a life-altering situation where it wasn't that I decided to pursue philanthropy, but I decided to do what I want to do with my life, and that was to have an impact directly on people. One of the things that I've had the good fortune to do is apply some of the same frameworks that I use in the for-profit sector to use them in the nonprofit sector. By that I mean the same way that we think about driving returns on the investments that we make in business, how can we think about getting returns when we invest in people? Right? How can we take people like Sam that had no vision for going to college and no vision for working on Wall Street, and somebody, your parents and your siblings, probably others, can invest in you that allows you to drive far more returns than companies that invest in every day. And so the people that made an investment in Sam and all of us, in some some capacity, are truly the most elite investors in the world. And so, for my path to philanthropy was really, again, finding ways to invest in people and get returns like humans in the same way that we do our financial assets.
Is this working? I just got a look at Sam's kicks. Can you go those up? I'm seeing them, for sure. My name is Wendi Safstrom, president of the Sherman Foundation, Society for Human Resource Management. Carol, thank you so much for inviting me here today. Sherman is the world's largest professional society for HR. We've got 340,000 members all across the globe. The majority of our members are here in the U.S., and about 60 to 65% of our individual members who are HR professionals represent or small to medium-sized businesses, which represent really the majority of employment opportunities in the U.S. And we are the 501c3, we're the philanthropic affiliate of SHRM. SHRM really focuses on elevating HR when it comes to driving members and providing communities and methods of support for HR professionals to network and learn from one another. We've got professional certification, different levels of certification for HR pros, and really focuses on elevating HR and helping businesses understand how important that function is to operate a business successfully so that hopefully employees will prescribe the company price. We focus in 3 key areas. We believe the foundation can change society and the world of work, and we focus on 3 areas: wide pathways to work. We've got a huge initiative that supports untapped skills and talents, the programming that's designed to help HR professionals recruit and retain individuals who are coming prepared to their work a little bit differently, perhaps based on life circumstances or what they've experienced, or perhaps they don't have an opportunity to have skilled credentials and are looking to find their way into the world of work and then move their way up once they're there. We also have a huge initiative linked to workplace mental health and wellness here, reading and burnout, stressed out, and they're working out, everybody's got something, right? And no matter where you work, you're bringing it to work, and that means that we need to do a better job as HR professionals by providing services and support benefits that are addressing that. We were just talking about caregiving. Caregiving is real, and I've recently experienced it personally. Both of my parents just turned 80 this year. They live here in Denver. I was here last weekend briefly to focus on family meeting and taking care of my dad for that. Luckily, I work for an organization that walks the walk and talks the talk, and for a CEO believes caregiving is incredibly important. We need to help HR professionals create, again, those opportunities and a culture of care within their place in the business. And you, lastly, with their body of work, who here wants to be an HR professional? Raise your hand. Come on. Who's here? Who had never considered it, but now wants to multiply your box? Everybody raise your hand, right? First thing you gotta get up in front of you. We're sitting with others. HR professional people, human resource managers, human resource managers, people who run the HR functions within your organizations. Depending on the size of your organization, you may have a huge department, recruiting, training. The folks you go to when you have trouble with them, that's the place where you go to get fired and sometimes hired, or hired and sometimes fired, I should say. Those are our numbers. But we also have 4 of those who are considering pursuing HR scholarships and professional development grants. Look there right up. I was, before I went to a couple of different other associations for the foundation, I was an HR professional for Hyatt Hotels in Chicago, and also for the advertising agency. I have a deep respect and an affinity for this profession, and I believe we can do better. We're working really, really hard as HR pros, and I think we can do better and we can improve the lives of society. The world of work, and that's my spiel. Thank you.
Thanks, Rodney. Let's go to my colleague, Rodney.
Thanks, Ann. Hello, everyone. I'm Rodney Bolden. I am official title as Executive Director, Head of Industry Engagement within a division called Morgan Stanley Work, which is our workplace financial benefits division within wealth management and Morgan Stanley. What does all that mean? When you think about little benefits like retirement, 401k, 403b, or maybe you're working for a company where you have equity compensation. That's what we do. My specific role is I conduct thought leadership research on the current and long trends in the workplace so that HR professionals can better tailor their workplace benefits to meet the financial challenges of their workers. Surprisingly, though, coming out of college, I did not say, someday I'm going to be head of industry engagement at Morgan Stanley. That's not what I said. Coming out of college, I actually wanted to be a radio DJ. But I got a job offer from a radio station making X amount, and then a job offer from a mutual fund company making Y amount. I had student loans. How many people have student loans in the room? Raise your hand. You can relate? Absolutely. So I had student loans. I said, this is paying a little more. I'm going to go to Wall Street. But my perspective changed on October 19, 1987. For those that don't know, that is a day called Black Monday. It was the largest one-day drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average since the 1929 stock market crash. And I saw how it impacted everyone. Even if you weren't directly invested in the market, you were indirectly impacted by it. And I said, in an industry that impacts everyone, I got to be a part of it. So that's where our name started out in Brooklyn, Starrett City, East New York, Brooklyn. I can't say I'm the first in my family. My sister at college was a PE in college, so she was the first. But parents were not out graduates, but worked hard and got us there.
So Rodney talks a lot about 401ks and all that stuff. But the real gem that Rodney is at Morgan Stanley is the way that he impacts young people's lives. So Rodney, hopefully today on this panel we get a chance to talk about how you work with young people around financial literacy. Really amazing stuff. So thank you, Rodney. Actually, Rodney, we'll just stay with you as we begin our first formal line of questioning here. Just we'll share the microphone to make it easier. Rodney, you gave us a little bit of your background when you started your career, but this work and this focus on economic mobility, the title, Planning for a Prosperous Future, is something that's core to what you do. So give us a little bit of your background in terms of the why you do this work.
Absolutely. Great question, Sam. So, why? Started in Wall Street 38 years ago. I don't know how could you be so young? But 38 years ago, started on Wall Street, was a financial advisor, working in wealth management, managed wealth management. You had to have a minimum of $1 million or more to even open an account. Then I went to work at JP Morgan Chase, as some of my former colleagues are in, and managing a branch in East Flatbush. So East Flatbush heavily Caribbean American immigrant communities. Mom and pop little shops on every single corner in between churches. And I had people come to my bank and said, your bank won't lend to me. It's not right. And I said, well, let's take a why not? And I would take a look and I said, oh, well, your credit score is 610. That's why you get it wrong. I know that's a great credit score. It's like, well, actually, it's a fair credit score. It's not really great. They said, oh, no. All my family has a credit score of 500. So that's a great credit score. That was my light bulb moment to say that my mission should be empowering people through financial education.
I thought this was for everyone else on the panel, so maybe Abby can do it.
Thanks for that. From my perspective, philanthropy, if we think about it, takes sort of two large forms, right? Philanthropy can help with immediate needs, or you can focus on long-term change. And both are valuable, both are necessary. And I work in that spectrum across that whole scale with my clients and donors. And I would say it really drew me in this ability to change systems. When I got to dive deeper with donors and to understanding how do you really make these levers move. And to me, what's really exciting is when you're working with immediate needs and long-term change, you get to impact at least one generation. The long-term change aspect, you are engaging many generations, and perhaps those that you will never meet. I go back always in a lot of what I do with philanthropy to this Chinese proverb, which is, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. And that's true in philanthropy. It doesn't matter when you started. Should have been maybe 20 years ago, if you could have, in whatever field that is. But to start today in something is really powerful.
I have lots of why. We had a team retreat a couple of months ago, and we started the retreat with why and with a circle. Why everybody works in this, what they do, wanted to do, what they do to Shem Foundation. I have 4 different ones, but I have a family history in HR. My dad was the stage rep for Chemical and helped DocuSign start the HR function. And his dad actually was a professional musician. He played double bass with Denver Symphony Orchestra, which is now the Colorado Symphony Orchestra, right? He was the director of personnel, back when he was personnel. And I started my career in HR. It was funny, when I would ask my dad what he did every day as an HR professional, I didn't understand what he said to me. And I kind of fell into the industry and just really, again, developed an affinity and deep respect for it. But I was still slightly terrified. I could tell our stage show when I get a call from Jim Lee. It's kind of possible for them, what do they do? And I want to, through this work, help elevate and change people's perceptions and understandings and help HR professionals to bring again those cultures of affairs and know that we can. And I also have a why because my parents grew up here in Colorado. We had a family, all went to the University of Colorado, University of Denver, faculty, very successful. Other side of the family, nobody had gone to college before. And my aunt and uncle worked at King Soopers. My aunt was a checker, and my uncle received goods in the midnight shift, right? And both of their sons graduated. One of my cousins, I mean, wanted to go to college, but didn't know how I was going to pay for it. Wasn't sure he could do it. Joined Boston. And he went to the University of Colorado, which is in Blue Leaf. I got that right, my mom did too. And because he enlisted in the military, they went to college, and now he's a meteorologist, predicting weather for top secret stuff across the world, so very successful. His brother, older brother, went to college, went graduated from high school, and just didn't think college was his jam, right? Didn't know how he was going to pay for it, didn't think he'd get into school, and he farmed there for 10 years. And he finally got a break. He got a job working in construction with a large, it was a large concrete company here in Denver, and now 10 years later, he's like managing the place. And he's running multi-million-dollar projects all over Colorado and surrounding states. And I thought, I want to be able to do something as in the world of work through HR to help those cousins who kind of got to work a little bit differently, know that they have tremendous potential, that there are options out there. Yes, the 4-year degree is absolutely critical. That's something that you have the wherewithal and desire to do, but there are other avenues that set you up for life and professional success. And so that's another addition to my why. I love HR, and I really want to talk about opportunities for everyone. I want to help create opportunities for everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to get to my wife, so I'm a little bit of a storyteller. So, anybody in here ever read, put your hand up, ever read Accurate Research Report? Alright, so it's about 500 people in the room, we got 10 that have read Accurate Research Report. So I wasted about 10 years of my life writing Accurate Research and everything. The reason I say that is, and I'll give you a backstory. My dad was born in 1929 in Kansas, Mississippi. Obviously, Kansas City in 1929. Has anybody seen Sinners here? The movie Sinners? Okay. Sinners, so this is scary. If you go back, it was 1932 in Clarksville, Mississippi, is where Sinners was based, right? That's fictional, but it puts it in perspective. My dad was then 3 years old. Right, and when the events of that movie, that fictional movie, were happening. But it does set great context. In fact, my father was picking cotton when he was 7 years old in Kansas, Mississippi. He lied about his age when he was 15, so he didn't listen to the United States Navy. And he spent 27 years in the Navy, retired, worked for the federal government, has a PhD. My mother, born in 1935 in North Carolina, had a great family, nuclear family. Her parents, although they worked in cigarette factories and worked at the hospital, were able to send her brother and sister all to college at historically black colleges and universities. My parents were older, they're not that old, despite the fact that they are that old. Their way of finding economic prosperity was a different paradigm than what many of the young people are living in today. For a young black man growing up in Mississippi, the military was transformative. He went all over the world. He led other naval officers in the South Pacific. My mother got to teach tens of thousands of children over 50 years of working in public schools, from Virginia to Maryland to D.C. They both also had what we call a pension. For many of the young folks in here, that sounds like something like a typewriter, right? Or a regular non-electric bicycle, right? I mean, those things don't exist anymore. But the way that economic prosperity worked before was to get a really good job, oftentimes a government job, and you work and you're putting a little bit into your pension every year so that when you retire, you can take care of your family, you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your health. I would say that the value proposition for economic prosperity today looks a little bit different. Most companies, even companies that manage pensions, for federal and state employees, oftentimes don't have pension plans. And so this narrative around saving, this narrative around reinventing yourself 1, 2, 3, or 4 times in your life is something that's critical. The reason I asked about that research report, I started off as an engineer. My mother was so proud. My dad died when I was in college. My mother was so proud. My son is an engineer. He's going to work for IBM. For my folks here from Denver, Kansas City, this is a great table, by the way, in front of you. Great table. You guys know anything about IBM? It's like the computer that your granddad uses. IBM in the 90s was a great company. It was transforming. But today, you know, the company doesn't exist in the same format. You have to reinvent yourself, right? And so you've got to develop a network of advocates, supporters, sponsors, mentors that can help you find places and opportunities to reinvent yourself over and over again, because it is highly unlikely you're going to have a pension. You're going to have to learn to invest, and the work that we do in all finance, and this is part of my why, is if you just have a job, GDP is about 3%. If you get a job, your salary will increase relatively about GDP, the rate of GDP. You'll get a 3% raise every year. Right? Not just that, you get a job, you keep a job, you do your job. You increase just enough to keep doing okay. Right? S&P 500 returns, call it 7 to 10% a year. That gets you a little bit better. That's why we invest in these 401ks, right? So that we can increase our wealth a little bit. The work that we're doing on alternatives says, I'm going to create my returns for a little bit of liquidity. Right? I can't get my money out right now, but I'm going to invest in the longer term so I can take out all the money down the road. How do you understand that as a young person? Honestly, as an old person, it's probably the most important thing that you can do in this current era. Right? And that's regardless of your gender, your race, your religious background, that at the end of the day, we live in what I would call a capitalist country. So it's important that you have an understanding of capital, regardless of your political views or your religious views or your social views. At the end of the day, we all go to the grocery store and we pay for the loaf of bread and a dozen eggs that cost $49 for a dozen now. Right? We pay for that with capital. And so we've got to have an understanding of the relationship. The work that I'm doing is really focused on making sure that we're adding that to our consciousness, independent of what else we do.
So that was just the foundation of the conversation. If this title of this agenda session was how to have a prosperous future, the answer is actually entitled Actionable. So the title is Planning for a Prosperous Future. It doesn't just come about, right? So the one theme that we're going to hit on for the remainder of our time is how to plan for a prosperous future. And that could look different depending on who you are in the audience. So just by way of a little bit of audience participation here, if you are an active student at any age, please stand up. Active students. On behalf of the full audience, we would say congratulations for being here. We recognize the effort that you made to be here today. You could have done a host of other things. Especially young people, I know you like to sleep in, you could have slept in, played video games, hung out with friends, you could actually try to do something to make some money today. But you chose to be here. Why is that? Because you found, or someone highlighted to you, the benefits of being here, how it doesn't just help you today, but they help you for your future. Right? And that's what planning for a prosperous future is all about. So with that in mind, for our families, let's talk to that audience, that cohort that just stood up. Share some advice with this audience or students on the best advice that you have for creating a prosperous future. Who wants to start? Rodney, please.
So, same talk about planning. If you plan for nothing, your result will be right. So let's begin with the plan. Be intentional when it comes to your finances. In hearing your story, you're intentional about a lot of things. The students I've spoken with, the students I've heard, intentional about pursuing your respective degree, pursuing your career. Be also intentional in your pursuit of economic mobility. And the way to do that, I want you to dream. Dreams are great, right? You ever wake up from a dream? Man, that's the best dream. What happens when you wake up? Your reality. Converting that dream into reality means having a goal and a plan. Because a dream without a goal and a plan is just a wish. And when it comes to the goal, make sure that it's a smart goal. Now, in this case, I'm not talking about intelligent. I'm talking about an acronym. So when you set a financial goal for yourself, it should be specific. It shouldn't be, I just want to pay off debt. It should be, I want to pay off this particular debt. And then make it measurable. How much debt do you have? What's the interest rate? Do you know less than half of Americans know what interest rate they're paying on their debt? Then the A, action. What actions are you going to take? It's great that you want to pay off debt. It's great that you know how much debt you have, but what are the actions you're going to take? And then the R and the T is reachable and timely. By doing the first three, you will know what is reachable, but also make that have that plan, that goal, whatever it is, should have an expiration date. A timeline for when you're going to get it done. So that is my biggest piece of advice, is set smart goals for yourself. Be intentional. Turn that dream into reality by enacting a plan. Last thing I'll say, my favorite quote is from the late Dr. Wendi. Do the best that you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. Knowing better is educating yourself about finances. On a financial literacy quiz that's administered annually to Americans, average score from 0 to 100 of the percentage of questions answered correctly, 49%. For Gen Z, 38% of the questions are answered correctly. So know better, but then set that plan in place to do better.
Rodney, before you take away the mic, just for a point of emphasis, you laid out SMART goals. Can you just give us those SMART goals again one time?
Sure. S is specific. The N is measurable. A, actions you're going to take. R, determine if it's reachable. And here's one thing about reachable. If you determine your goal is not reachable, the T comes into place. Extend the timeline. Don't give up on the goal. Just adjust the timeline.
Very nice. So earlier today I heard one action item for the audience, which was, we all came here under this common bond and focus, and we're going to be a lot of people here. And one of the goals I heard demonstrated earlier is go and meet someone new, connect with them, maybe share your email or contact details, connect on LinkedIn. That was one I heard earlier. There's probably been others that discussed so far today. Second one is think about those SMART goals and try to figure out how to apply that in your life. Would anyone else like to share any advice for our students in the audience? Abby?
I'll just tack on to what you said, Sam, in terms of just, I do believe that you should build your networks as intentionally as you build your skills. I would say the last 3 jobs, including this one that I had, I didn't apply for a job. It was all through networking. So that's the power of networking, essentially, when you think about that, right? Sometimes when you do an application to LinkedIn, it goes to this black hole, right? It actually is assessed through these different algorithms. But when you meet the person, when they meet you and they understand who you are, what your values are, what you're interested in, what you're capable of, perhaps, they're going to remember that. So that's sort of one piece. And then just kind of going off of our tail of prosperity, I would say, to think of prosperity as more than just income. It is the ownership, it is the leadership, the impact. And then also what Rodney was saying is just to know how money works. Is something, and I'm tying it back to just my philanthropic space. I have been in the front row seat to really see how incredibly powerful it is when people align their actions with their values. And so if you can figure out how to do that, take the time to really learn yourself to do that, that's going to be successful.
How many of you like public speaking? Raise your hands. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, I was trying to think of what I would have said to my younger self, not my younger self. I had a panic attack, like I said, a panic attack in 8th grade, taking the vocal board. I was standing in front of the class, and I had to provide a report on a book that I read a couple of weeks before, and I panicked. And I will never forget that. But some of the folks who I know that are most successful in business are expert communicators, or really good at it, or very passionate about it. Not only is their written communication solid, but their oral communication is solid. And if you can connect with an audience and share everything you've got in the image and all that, so I encourage all of you, even if it's really, really hard and very, very scary, because often it is, practice, practice, practice. The other advice I would have is your network is your net worth. Whatever that means, I get it intuitively, but you're right. I heard Holly on her panel earlier this morning. She was like, network. I said, how do you get to know people like you? Holly runs a major investment firm. She's investing in people's money in philanthropic work. And she said, talk to people, go out and network. Even if it's very, very scary, you feel like going. Accept any and every opportunity you have to network. And lastly, I'll say, there is something he said, mind, body, and spirit, whatever that means to you. I wish that I had continued to do what I did as a younger athlete in high school and college and carry that through, but I got a little bit lazy. But once I started exercising on a consistent basis again and started watching what I was eating and drinking as opposed to whatever was cheap and fast, I noticed that connection between mind, body, and spirit. You feel better about yourself, you're more energetic, and you've got to take care of what's up here if you want to really translate, get all that great information and contribute to your goals to everyone that you engage with every single day. And lastly, let's start to make a plan. Those who plan to fail to plan. Maybe I always say so. That's it.
That's myself. Still trying to find prosperity. So I'm going to start with a couple of things. I work with college students, so I think a lot about my college experience. My biggest regrets, and so this is what I would share with you. If you have the opportunity, you study abroad. Absolutely. I'm almost 50 years old, and I still regret not going to study abroad. I'm regret. To be able to, and it's something about the elasticity of your brain. You're not way smarter than the other folks in the table. You know, this guy over here, I don't know what college comes from. You know, I got the brain. You're like, I can tell it. No, part of your appreciation for things that you lose as you get older, you develop different appreciation for other things as you get older. So study abroad. I would also say, and the fact that you're all here today highlights that, find ways to do it. Find an opportunity to meet while you're in school, whether it's a club, or SGA, or an athletics team, or art skill. Find a way to lead, right? If you're using college just as a source to get a bunch of A's, you're misusing the opportunity, right? Because what's going to help you in the real world are, oh man, do you remember that time we were just talking about it? That opportunity with the teachers. That's a connection, right? You and I, maybe only up half a dozen other people in the room to talk about, right? If you have the opportunity to lead people, because you will lead people in the real world, people are difficult to lead. Use college as your test bed for that. So those are things that I didn't do that I really wish I had done. And even without those somehow it took me time to find prosperity and live family. Things that I did do that I think really set me up for success. Continuous learning. Like I am to this day, still a tinkerer, an engineer at heart of all things. I love learning. I meet people and read it. I listen to, probably a couple of dozen podcasts a week. I love learning financial things that have helped me. And I'm not going to give financial advice, but I'm doing this piece. You have your income statement and your balance sheet. How much money you make versus how much money you have. You can make a lot of money, but if you spend a lot of money and you take on a lot of debt, you can end up upside down. Alright, which means you can owe more money than you got. Some businesses operate like that. It's called leverage, right? Somehow they work. It's really hard for a human being because it'll catch up with you sometime. I bought a house 3 days before I got there, and I had 23 years. I'm not telling everybody about a house, but I'm telling you that it did work. We bought a very modest, inexpensive house right out of college. We could have lived in a place where we would have paid rent that was 2 or 3 times what we were paying in mortgage. But over the course of 23 years, with less than 8 months of vacancy in that time, because I rented it out after we moved, I probably had the best returning asset in my portfolio. Okay? What does that allow me to do? It allows you to have freedom, right? And that's what we talked about earlier. The ability, prosperity is really around the ability to have some freedom of choice in terms of how you want to spend every day of your life. That's what real prosperity is. And it's highly correlated to money sometimes, but it doesn't have to. Right? It's based on how you manage your time, how you manage your money, and to the point that the other thing was made. The earlier you start thinking about that proactively, the better it will be, in your 20s and 30s, 40s, and so forth.
So we also want to acknowledge that maybe there's a different cohort in the audience. Those that maybe gone to college, maybe not, have been working for a number of years, in some cases, a couple decades or more. And now they're thinking about this subject of prosperous future, and they're thinking about their own situations, making some decisions or regrets that they made at one time or another. Something didn't quite work out as they had planned it. But again, they're still motivated to retool or to refuel their outlook. And so maybe there's that population audience. Maybe you don't have to hear from everyone, but just make a couple comments on advice you should give to someone that's in that space in this point of their life and their career, where they're looking to retool or refuel. What advice would you give to them?
Well, a couple of things I'd say. Number one, if you are a maker, a few things to consider. Upskilling and reskilling yourself. Marcus talked about being a lifelong learner. That's one of the greatest superpowers you can have, is upskilling and reskilling, especially in this age of AI technology. And surveys from resume builders and hiring managers, when asked what is the top hard skill that you want to see in a resume today, artificial intelligence. The top soft skill, critical thinking. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that think about longevity. People are living longer and working longer. And are you prepared to do so? The fastest growing demographic in the workforce today, people over the age of 75. I know it's hard to believe how they only make up a small percentage, but more and more people are living longer and working longer. And with those, and challenges around your parents are living longer. Like I said, in the conversation now, your parents are living longer, so you're going to have to care for your parents. And also, many parents with adult children are still supporting financially their adult children. So as part of your financial plan, think about all of those factors. And once again, make a plan in advance. Don't wait for life to happen to you. Be proactive.
That's awesome.
I really look at career for 1 year. I had an experience where, I had a life-threatening kind of event that I endured, and, you don't think that's going to happen in your early 20s. And it kind of forces you to take a different path in life. So, one point I would say, if you are kind of in a career, or even later in career, and there are things that are starting to happen that make you think, I don't know how long I can go, the path that I'm going right now. That's when you want to wrap yourself around family, wrap yourself around friends, and truly lean on to, I would say, an understanding that you create for yourself, right? And it's not, this is not a religious faith, but this is a belief that you can recover, you can find a path, and that you can lean on a network of people and resources that you have. I tell our students this all the time. The most dangerous thing to be in this economy is lonely. And if you see that happen with people of the older generation, more than we see that with the younger generation. So if you're mid-career, you get laid off, you decide health can't allow you to endure the same wondering, don't be lonely. That's the most dangerous thing that can happen. It's hard to be lonely and prosperous, almost by definition.
So, panelists, do you know how we would be one of the best panelists in this conference? Get us out of here on time. All right. We have 3 minutes left. So, round robin style here. Very quick. Short answers. Even a role that you play. How can you most impact and make the biggest difference for the students that are represented here today in GlobalMindED?
So, really propelling mentorship, not only growing the rising generation, bringing them in the door, but also championing them forward for their future. I'll just say that the Fiduciary Trust International American Templeton has some research programs, Futures Associate programs where we use work with students from high school all the way through college. And we're building that community. We bring them in, the community supports them, not only now, but also in the future, hopefully for placing jobs. So we continue to do that, and also do the philanthropy work that I do.
Yeah, all finance, our platform is really there to support students and HBCUs, but certainly our team makes itself available to any student to support them anywhere in their career, particularly students that have an interest in financial services.
I would just say that philanthropy is good for business. You can do well by doing good, and my commitment is to continue to create programming and support for students like so many of you in the room with other individuals who are looking for their path into the world for. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity, and just want to thank you all for being here and wish you the best of luck.
With 20 plus years of financial education, I have collected a host of resources. So my commitment to you is that if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will share with you resources that can help you learn how to navigate your finances better.
Wow. So, in my role at Morgan Stanley, I get a chance to do something really cool, which is be part of conversations that design aspects of initiatives and programs for young people. And one of them is, if you are a high school senior, and you're getting ready to graduate high school next year, you're thinking about what's next, community college, bachelor's degree, career, or something else, what are things that you should know during your senior year of high school? There's a program that we have called the Morgan Stanley Finance Academy that's hosted and run by our analyst associates at Morgan Stanley to answer those five questions. 6-month-long virtual program. Students are eligible from all across the country to participate. that program, that might be an exciting opportunity for you as you think about the next steps in your trip. So let's give a round of applause for our amazing guys.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Yay! They get the Timely Award, and plus it was exceptional. So thank you so much. Good job. We'll give one more round of applause as you guys take off. Like little mini TED Talks, it's going to be with David Bruton, Dr. April Erickson, Travis Luther, a couple of you all heard who were in the first gen class yesterday, and Isabel Howe, who has a new book out, and we are very excited to have her share about her motivation and the power of that book to really change the lives not just of early learners, but of all of us as learners. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in the breakout sessions. We'll see you back here in 2 hours.